That's what this chapter is pointing to. It's pointing to the being, coming to relationship with the being. If you have parts of yourself that you have not met, parts of yourself that still is driven by desire or anger or a perspective of yourself or the world, issue of self-esteem, an issue of feeling stress or anxiety, then meditation isn't going to come to you. Doesn't mean you can't practice meditation. And it doesn't mean that the practice of meditation isn't an effective action, but it's not yet meditation. It's not yet the 6th chapter. It's not yet the place of consciousness where you are finding and in that condition of endlessly arising, self-fulfilling happiness. Here in the 6th chapter, verse 238 and 239, the self is said to be the friend. This is the capital self. I'm going to say it this way. The what is said to be the friend and also the enemy of the who. Okay? Therefore, one should liberate the who by the help of the what and not bind it by the who. It's kind of a tricky little sentence here. But it's basically using the what we wake up to on this journey to dismantle the who that is still running the show. This is perhaps the most important work. And meditation, when it becomes stabilized, allows for you to, in your day-to-day life, to be engaged in this process of dismantling the who from the place of your whatness. So this is the Gita, what the Gita is pointing to. And it is saying this is what it means to be at the edge of the journey of the individual soul, where it's reaching the culmination of its multiple lifetimes of traveling through ignorance and suffering and loss and success and failure. It is the completion of the phase of the individual. It's at this point we start taking ourselves less personally. We start becoming less defensive. We become less reactive. We notice that when we don't get things our way, we're not as upset. We notice that we need less to be happy. As a matter of fact, the more less, the happier we are. So there is this unfolding of a completely different paradigm in our relationship to happiness and suffering that this chapter is pointing to, which is preparing ourselves for the universal forces to come in and start taking over the work. The next verse, 239, one who's conquered the who by the what, for him the who is a friend. But one who is unable to do this, for him the who is like an enemy. Okay, so if you can get that, it just basically says one who's conquered his ego by his being, by his awareness, by his awakened consciousness, the ego becomes a collaborator in the process of this undoing. But one who's unable to do this, then the ego is going to be kicking and screaming and fighting and resisting and retreating to old strategies again and again and again. So what is this conquering? It's a battlefield, right? Gita is a battlefield. So if you don't have an enemy, you don't have a battle. So that's what ignorance is. It's not knowing you're your own worst enemy. So at least an awakened person could begin to discover who the real enemy is. It's the person who's looking at you in the mirror. Or after a while, it's the person who shows up as someone you don't want to be with. Or perhaps it shows up as someone you really, truly want to be with, but don't feel deserving of it. So there's this whole structure of self-esteem, this whole structure of individual identity that's shaped by subconscious structures or decisions or intentions or rules or judgments that have been placed upon us about our worthiness, about our okayness. This is insidious. It's insidious because I see people making wonderful progress, and then they begin to doubt. They begin to doubt that this is the right place for them, or they begin to doubt they're capable, that they could trust themselves. They begin to doubt the teacher. They begin to doubt that they can do it. It goes either way, blaming or shaming. Blame, shame, blame, shame. And you lose the ability to keep the momentum of the dismantling, of the conquering going. And when it comes up, it's a defeat. When the negative ego comes up, it's a defeat. It may not be in that moment. Actually, if you can feel hopeless, if you can go into despair, if you can go into an emotional experience, you're actually getting down to the root of it, because you're beginning to meet the part of the conditioning where it started in your consciousness, in your psychology. And then that carries a great possibility of success, because by the time you come to the 6th chapter, your consciousness is like a fire. It starts your ability to be with yourself at the bottom of the barrel is what transmutes the bottom of the barrel into the paradise that it is. To be able to learn how to hold it as your problem, your issue, and not keep seeking enemies and someone to blame or accuse, or a justification or rationalization to explain away what is arising up for you. The more you can dismantle that part of the who you are that you're still unconsciously invested in. See, the who is just a machine. It's just a machinery. It's completely biological Pavlovian programming that has come from what people said, experiences you had, and then what your mind does with that on top of that. So it's a programming, it's a conditioning. It's your body that carries the error of our sense of self. It carries the error of our unexamined assumptions. So this process of dismantling this error is the conquering. But on the other side, it can feel like an apocalypse. If the part of you is identified with the ego, it's identified with the who, then this is destruction of yourself as you've known yourself up to now. You see, you make a decision at 6 years old, 9 years old, about your worth. You then build an identity based on that decision. That decision is like a complete fabrication, steel, burnt, beams, walls, stucco, brick, stone, the whole thing, the whole story of you is this huge edifice. And right there, down there near the foundation, is this assumption, this unexamined decision, this visceral piece of programming that actually is there in your body. It's actually stored in the physicality of your body. You got some cells that carry the trauma or the stress or the collapse or the hopelessness of that decision. Those cells are holding them, that thing in your body. And when you dismantle that, it is an apocalypse, because the entire edifice no longer can remain valid. It all starts falling down. It all starts losing its ability. You lose track of who you are. Who am I? What am I? If I wasn't this, if I wasn't defending myself, if I wasn't having my friends, if I didn't have the money in the bank, if I didn't have my complaint, if I didn't have the people I could gossip with, or someone to complain about, what would I be? There's this whole loss of identity. Because what is identity? Identity is consciousness unwittingly becoming associated with a piece of content and making it itself. We're nothing but an aggregations of misplaced attention, where we feed unwittingly structures of error about our true nature. So every human being is born into this cauldron. Every human being, that's the apocalypse. The apocalypse is the birth. And nature has created the apocalypse at the death. And we're scared to death of the death, but the death is the best news yet. The birth is the problem. That's where it just goes downhill from there. So understanding the nature of your process then allows you to move into relationship with things that you ran the other way from. You learn to recontextualize what's arising. It's not about my self-esteem. It's not about what this person thinks of me. Not about that things are going wrong right now. Excuse me. It is a collapsing of my identity as a who, as a little self, as an ego. And that's good news at this stage of the journey. I assure you it's good news, and it gets better. The less there is of you, the happier you will be. Guaranteed. I'll sign a contract. Of course, you'll never be able to get insurance for it. Because I can't guarantee you'll appreciate the process. Everything I do is to free you from this error. It's to keep reminding you of the truth of what you are so you can get more authority over the error of your separative self, of your ego, of your who.